Okay, my name is Noel McPartland, born and reared in Drumshanbo. In fact, Fergal would be the fifth generation of our family in Drumshanbo. But I first started working for Laird's here in 1964, and we built a new factory in 1983, which is the one we're in now. And 1983 and throughout the 80s, a very tough time for business in Ireland because of the high interest rates. But we were well supported by the various agencies in building the factory. We got into the region of 2 million, which was a lot of money in 1983 to build this factory. The family then decided to sell the factory as a going concern in 1988 to Larry Goodman's Food Industries. And he ran it for 3 or 4 years and then sold it to Kepac, who are from Clonee in County Meath. Both companies being in the meat business. And they bought a company that was in the grocery business in a different style. And really, it didn't work for them. And they decided to close it in 1996. And for those of us who worked here, it was quite an emotional time. I already had left the company. I was set up my own company on the export market in 1984, actually, or 1989. And we just couldn't see this factory being left lying idle, and 3 or 4 of us who worked here, Sean Nolan being one of them, our production manager, also the late Jim McPartland, who was a sales rep here at the time. We chased the factory through the Goodman Group and through Kepac, and eventually it took 4 or 5 years more before we got our hands on the factory, and we got the McGuinness Group in from Mullingar and Clonee, or Clonard in County Westmeath, to buy the factory and gave us a long lease, a 99-year lease, which enabled us then to apply for funding to the various agencies. Now, if we hadn't done that, this factory would have been knocked, because everybody who was in the building business in those days was actually building houses. And we'd be standing here today, I have no doubt about it, standing in a ghost estate if we hadn't done what we did. So in 2003, we got the long lease, we applied for funding. Enterprise Ireland funded us for 300 grand within a couple of months. And remember, this was only a concept at the time, but they liked the idea. We had the former Minister for Industry and Commerce, Eamon O'Keefe. He actually saw the benefit of what we were going to do. We took him over here early one morning in a very leaky factory, over in an office, and we convinced him that, together with Orla Casey, of course, she was the one that actually led the charge. And we convinced him in the old canteen that he should give us a run at this. And he did, he started us off. So from there then we applied to the International Fund for Ireland, and we started work then on the factory. And by 2006 we had it finished. But we had no tenants. And eventually a tenant arrived in called Lochhallen Foods, who were taken over then a couple of years back by Chef in a Box, who are now one of our big clients. Then we had the kitchen at the back, which is a hospitality kitchen for teaching chefs and cooks and all that. And that actually has been a great benefit, because that was taken over by Sullis, who formerly were Foss. And they rent the factory for 10 months of the year, and they run courses for 10 months each year. And that's been ongoing and has been a great money spinner for us in very difficult times, because during all of this, the recession hit in 2008 and 2009, and we were literally hanging on by our fingernails. And eventually we got McNiff's Boxty in, an established company actually. They came in, Detta McNiff and Michael, and they set up their own Boxty business here, and they are doing very well, I'm glad to say. Any spare space that comes is nearly taken up overnight. Then we have my own little jam company, Bo Peep Preserves Limited, which is a very small company, and it employs one person, myself. But I had that emotional attachment, being in the jam business from 1964, and I actually cover the Middle East and the Far East market for Laird's, and through our success in that market, that was the reason we built the new factory. We weren't able to handle the volume we had going through here. But in a sense, we probably built too big a factory in 1983, and interest rates being so high, it was really a struggle for the family, so they decided to sell. Focusing it then on the food hub, which Orla Casey came up with that name, incidentally, and Orla was a real brick for us during all of this time. In fact, for a short period, she had an office here. She stayed with this big client she had acquired. And she was fantastic. Her and I went to various things trying to raise funds, and we got money from, we got a great donation from Musgraves of Cork, who are the Super Value Centre people. And I wrote to the MD down there, Seamus Scally, but I knew the Musgraves because they came from here. They came from Drumshanbo, just outside Drumshanbo. They sent us £10,000 in 2004. Which was a fortune of money for us, you know. And we gradually went on from there. But when McNiff came in, and then who arrived with the distillery, and they have been a big catch. And Drumshanbo now is really back on the map in terms of food and drink. And we hope to go and fill another food hub, which we're trying to acquire, a factory here in town, and we have the clients to fill it as well. But just to sum up, it's great to stand here this morning to be able to tell that story, because it is a good story. It's a story that came from the community itself, because when we brought the idea to Drumshanbo Community Council, which we set up earlier in '89 during the bad times, when we set that up, we decided we had to stop the job losses that were happening, and thus the food hub was born, and many other things were done, but we're at a good stage at this stage. So thank you very much for listening to me.